we were buried in the count and haven't been hitting that good, so we went for it and it worked. They don't always work, so put ourselves in position to do something and try to win the game.
How do you characterize Matt's start?
He's been sharper, and it might have been a little bit of a. He was really good in the bullpen, especially with his fastball. Didn't have all of his pitches in the bullpen, but what was unusual is when the game started, he didn't pound the strike zone, and ultimately that's what created the problem. Walking the hit and then hit batter and 2 walks to the bottom of the order, and then their good leadoff hitter Deemer getting a 2-run hit. And tip your cap to the Titans. They did a good job of executing there in the 9th and getting it done. I thought Balta's ball when it left his bat, because he has that kind of power, I thought we had a chance, but unfortunately we didn't get it done.
What changed from last night to today to make it a little bit more of a contest?
Well, Crook's got good stuff, and even though he was a little bit all over the place, sometimes those guys with his kind of stuff are hard to hit. So he created a little bit of his own mess, but he was good enough to throw some pretty nasty pitches, and so it didn't compound itself. And we fielded the ball a little bit better. They didn't bunt the ball quite as well. And I guess both teams take the bunt away when it's wet like this. And so we were in the ball game, but that's not a moral victory. Unfortunately, we can't get a 2 out of 3 from the good ball club like we set out to do.
Is he a good enough guy at this point that the rest of the team can kind of have confidence playing behind him a little bit?
Matty?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think...
Can he lift up the whole group, I mean?
I don't know if it was nerves or maybe too much respect for our opposition, seeing that they hit some balls hard last night. I think just his mechanics and his rhythm were off a little bit, and his arm was dragging. And so I'd like to think that it wasn't lack of trust in his stuff. I think it was just a mechanical thing. And
were you debating taking Patton out after the single?
Yeah, that's the second guess for me. It's not a safe situation when you're a home team in a tie game and late innings, and that could have been Jake in there. But Trent, he's got to pitch sometime, and really our magic formula has been Clev in the 8th and Jake in the 9th. I could have flipped that around because it was the Chapman, Davis part of the order, the 3 right-handers that have good power, but it's here and there now. I mean, ifs and buts, and the second guess for me is I probably should have pitched out when they hit and ran. I knew in my heart of hearts I thought they weren't bunting. We threw a slider. J.D. Davis executed a perfect hit and run, and we're kind of lucky that whatever his name is, I'm drawing a blank on the left fielder's name, but that ball wasn't out too on the sac fly.
Did he kind of sniff out that hit and run? You guys kept picking off right before the pitch.
Yeah, they're going to do something. I would suspect. It's college baseball. It's a pitcher's park, knowing Coach Vanderhook, and so we did a step off and then a pick, and didn't see any kind of body language, and that's what I mean. My instincts should have said they're hitting and running, but they didn't. So we got out-coached again.
You mentioned you couldn't hit your goals of getting 2 wins in this series. How important does tomorrow's game become to get something out of this?
Yeah, you salvage 1 out of 3, and anytime you can win against a team that's probably going to stay at the top of the polls and that kind of thing, it's a good RPI win. And there's a lot of different little games within the game. It's attitude day. Never want to have somebody come in and sweep you in your own park. And, I would suspect that we'll get a maximum effort out of our kids. They've always been that way, but I do know the other side too. They're sniffing the blood, and they're like sharks. They've got us down a couple games. It'd be a great accomplishment on their part to come in here and sweep us. So it'll be fair and square. Both teams will be ready to play. I think my team will be ready to play.
Kruger hit a couple hard balls today, and how would you what were your impressions of his performance at the bat and then behind the plate?
Yeah, I thought he was solid, and he's been good behind the plate, and he's not throwing quite as well as he was earlier in the year. It's nice to get him off the snide, so to speak, offensively. We think he's got a chance to be a pretty good offensive player, and he squared a lot of balls up today. He looked good.
Has he improved handling Matt in the last?
Matt's hard to handle. He's right now we think he's the best catcher to handle Matt. Anytime you throw 89 to 94, that kind of sink and arm side run, he's hard to catch. You saw him even catching warm-ups. Sometimes you'd have to bat it down because Matty's ball moves so much.
What do you think of Balta's hit there at the end of the game?
That was the quality of bat. All you can do, you control the process. You everybody wants the results of getting a hit, tie the game or extra bases or a home run, obviously, to have a walk-off. I think it speaks volumes about AJ and squaring a ball up against their starter, and in a lot of ballparks that is a home run.
George, before the rain delay, you guys had a fairly long half inning for Crook to be sitting and waiting. Is there a way you approach that when he goes back out, or you watched him? I mean, he was pretty good.
Well, he was good. In fact, it might have been better at that point. And his pitch count was already up a little bit. I'd actually thought to take him out after the 5th, but he convinced me that he felt strong and got up to 110 pitches, which is plenty of work. And we were watching him very closely, and you just kind of have to trust him, even though he's a freshman. I asked him several times, "You're not doing this with emotions," because he wants to win the game and all that stuff. And he convinced me that he felt strong and there was no possible potential injury there, and so we let him go.
Do you say anything though during that rain delay on how to approach it when he gets back out there, or make sure he's warmed up, or it was a long
just
time?
Keep him loose, and we've got a little warming jacket to keep his arm loose and stretched out, and then give him plenty of warm-ups so that he's a guy like him with a golden arm doesn't end up hurting himself.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.